Good morning, everybody. Good morning, replay viewers. There's our junky entryway. But a cat in front of the fireplace is too good to resist. Good morning. Of course, Morgan called me at like 9 o'clock and talked for an hour. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, my eyes are blurry. I can't see you. Yeah, it's very cozy in here today. It's cold. Too cold to sit outside, unfortunately. Oh, thanks for the hearts in the chairs. And, how's everyone doing? It's very toasty. It's so cold here. It's bright sunshiny, but it's cold. And the other day it was overcast and cloudy, but it was warm. It can't make up its mind. It doesn't feel like it looks outside. So I don't know about you guys' rice experiment, but ours are pretty gross. Old man winter, yes. 12 degrees and sun in Denver, yay. Oh, cool. Good. Our rice is disgusting. Our thank you jar is seriously nasty. Our you fool jar is just as gross. And the interesting thing is that our control jar is gross, but not as gross. The jar that we're doing nothing to is better. Yeah. So I think I'm going to end it because you don't have the same results. What are your rice jars doing? Tell us while I get started here. All of our jars have mold, and the control jar has less mold. What is happening here? But they're all gross. The thank you looks fine. Michelle, maybe yours is the only one that's going to work. Ignore is starting to mold. Ours are covered in mold. Your happy jar is moldy, but not so much. So, the funky jar is very moldy. They're gross. My name is Michelle Wolf. You can find me at caddyshackdesigns.com. Across the top of the website are tabs for everything I do, which is coaching and Reiki and cat home design and Young Living essential oils, whatever. Maybe the cats are hating on the rice. I used our spring water. I might try it with uncooked rice. I think somebody said they did that, uncooked rice. But whatever. So, I guess you could look at it the opposite in that we are putting energy into those jars and things are growing. So the mold is happy and growing. It's growing best in the thank you jar. I'm going to dump mine out. It's in my canning jars, and I won't be able to stomach. I'll have to throw them away, and I don't want to throw them away. They're like $1.50 a piece. So, if we're looking at things that thrive, the thank you jar is got a thriving colony of mold. The you fool jar has a thriving colony of mold that's less than the thank you jar, and the control jar just has a little bit. So, maybe we'll look at it backwards. Anyway, today is our Tao Te Ching. It's thankful mold. Yeah, maybe. It could be. If you give plants energy, they grow better. So maybe our mold is just growing great because we're loving on it. Yeah, maybe the cats are hating on the rice when we're not looking. Today's our Tao Te Ching and Byron Katie study. So we'll start with this book, this translation, and then if you haven't been here before, we're using 2 translations, and then following along with a corresponding chapter in Byron Katie's book, 1,000 names for joy. So let's see. We're on chapter 21. And next week will be pretty chaotic because I'm down with the children back and forth a lot more than normal because of holiday schedules. So I haven't decided yet if I'm just going to take a break and take a week off, or if I'm going to try and just juggle scoping with the children. We'll see. Today's chapter is The Empty Heart. The greatest power is the gift of following the way alone. How the way does things is hard to grasp, elusive. Elusive, yes, hard to grasp. Yet there are thoughts in it. Hard to grasp, yes, elusive, yet there are things in it. Hard to make out, yes, and obscure, yet there is spirit in it, veritable spirit. There is certainty in it. From long, long ago till now, it has kept its name. So it saw the beginning of everything. How do I know anything about the beginning? By this. Her notes say, mysticism rises from and returns to the irreducible, unsayable reality of this. This, the word this is in quotation marks, is the way. This is the way. This being whatever's happening right now. This being the current reality without label, without story attached to it, without conflict, without fighting against it. For regulars who know I've been struggling like emotionally for the last few days, some things peaked out yesterday. I actually feel a lot better today. A lot better. Like, I'm going to say 80% better. Because Tanya pointed out to me late last night that it could be holiday anniversary stuff with the death of my dad. And then I found, it's been 5 years and he didn't die around the holidays, but it's still weird. And then I found some video clips of him last night. 80's good, I'll take it. I would take 20% better than how I felt. So I had a good ball over that. And then I had just remembered that it was the 4th year to the day anniversary that my dog died. Like my heart dog, you get one in a lifetime dog. And that was yesterday. So right as I had told her that, Facebook popped up the thing, hey, 4 years ago today, your dog died. You know, that stupid thing that shows you several years ago stuff. And I was like, oh. So then I had another ball for like 2 hours. But I felt a whole lot better after that. I was like, I didn't even make that connection that it could be holiday and death stuff. And it's the darkest time of year and all that stuff. So it all kind of clicked together. I had a good ball, talked to my sister, and I feel a lot better. So the last kind of, whatever was, peaked, all came together, moved on through with some loud emotion, not loud, but like energetically loud. Then I watched Whine About It and laughed. If you guys don't follow Matt Belisai on Facebook, he's vulgar and hilarious. And once a week he puts out a show called Whine About It. And the last couple of weeks have been really extra funny. So, yeah, it was a cleansing kind of cry. Yeah, I've had so much support. I know I've been receiving like a lot of energy from this group. And so that can only have helped get everything going. Yeah, so Matt Belisai, Bellasai. Find him on Facebook. If you don't mind language. Like, he's kind of gross sometimes, but so funny. So funny. He did one on why being grown up is the worst, or being an adult or something. It was really, really funny. So let's look at Stephen Mitchell's translation of today. Anyway, I was saying, before I forget, thank you for all the support I've gotten over the last few days and the messages, and I so appreciate it. And I'm sure this would have lasted a whole hell of a lot longer without it. So I very much love you and appreciate that. So chapter 21 in this translation says, The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. Oh, that's cool. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. You can only be relaxed if you aren't clinging to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space, since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. If we're at one always with reality and the way, we're always radiant. I think we've talked about it in terms of having that glow, that kind of glowy look about you when you're connected and centered in a peaceful state, and people are drawn to you and benefit from just by being in your presence. That is the way. It's beyond is and is not. It's beyond duality. It's beyond opposites, this or that. It's beyond labels. That's why it's so difficult to talk about. It's hard to label the unlabelable. There's no word that can describe it. Only emotion describes it. That feeling in your heart and your gut is what captures it, but it's very, very hard to put a word on that feeling, that sense of connection to God. The first verse in the second translation said, keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. And that's our responsibility, and that's the only place we have any power or control, is disciplining our mind, teaching our mind how to interact with reality. I really prefer thinking of it as a teaching process rather than I need to crush the shit out of my ego. I don't like that. I don't think it works. Yeah, and daily practice is the discipline. It is the discipline of it. Yeah, I don't think we should crush or reject any part of ourselves. I think we should work with it. Work with its strengths, but we can get caught up in language sometimes too. One day at a time. Sometimes 1 hour at a time. So the Byron Katie chapter 21, compassion for self, yes. If you're coming at yourself from a punitive, it's so tricky. Like, if we come at ourselves from a punitive state, it's like our ego is talking to our ego. Because that's an ego thing, punitive and punishment, and you've been bad, so you can't have the good stuff in life or whatever. All that garbage is garbage. So it's like the garbage is talking to itself. And that doesn't get you anywhere. If you hear a voice in your head that's anything less than compassionate and loving, it's another slant that it's another ego thing. Yeah. So God doesn't sound mean. Source doesn't sound punishing. There's endless forgiveness and endless acceptance and endless compassion, and anything other than that is just another random voice in your head. Probably something you internalize from a teacher or a parent or somebody in authority. So be careful of that. Let's see. Okay, so now we're in this book, 1,000 Names for Joy. Yeah. You always know what's true based on that tone. Yeah, it's a good way to tell them apart. Because our ego in our mind is tricky. It can speak to us in lots of different voices. I have a word for God, reality. Yeah, subconscious programming for sure. Under any circumstance, yeah. Reality is her word for God. I call reality God because it rules. It is what it is, and it's so physical. I know it's a tricky SOB. Tricky little bastard. Yeah, reality's perfect. It's so physical. It's a table, a chair. It's the shoe on your foot. I love God. It's so clear, so solid. It's completely dependable. You don't get a vote in what it does, and it doesn't wait for your opinion or your permissions. You can trust it completely, and that is true. You can trust reality to always be reality. It doesn't change. It doesn't shift. It's always the same. There's a safety and a comfort in that if you think about it. Your view of it, yeah, the story. That's this whole book, this whole process is taking apart your stories about reality that then influence your emotions and your experiences. You can know that reality is good just as it is because when you argue with it, you experience anxiety and frustration. So I guess what I should say is you accept reality as it is. Then you look at your stories about it. Then you can make some shifts. Or shifts actually make themselves. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it yourself. When you argue with reality, you experience anxiety and frustration. Any thought that causes stress is an argument. Oh. All such thoughts are variations on a theme. Things should be different than they are. I want, I need, he should, she shouldn't. It always hurts when you argue with what is. What is a story of the past. The past is past. It happened, and you can't do a thing about it. Argue with that. The sane alternative is to ask, where do I go from here? What wants to happen here? What's next? Show me the way. The past is a teacher. It's benign. It's over. But as long as people are living with an unquestioned past, they're living in the past. And it's a past that never happened in the first place. They're living in their story about the past. They're missing what's present right now, yeah. Which is the real future. I never know what's going to happen. All I know is that it's a good thing. People spend their whole lives dedicated to changing the past. It can't be done. Me too. I'm really liking it too. Thinking that the past should have been different is hopeless and masochistic. That's interesting. Masochistic to think about the past as different, as it should have been different than it was. Oh boy. Yeah. My mother should have loved me. My child shouldn't have died. The Holocaust shouldn't have happened. Comparing what happened to what you think should have happened is the war with God. Comparing what happened to what you think should have happened is the war with God. This is very difficult to hear when you're attached to concepts of right and wrong. Some people even think that sadness is an act of loyalty, that it would be a betrayal of the people they love not to suffer along with them, and this is crazy. If my child has died, that's the way of it. Any argument with that brings on internal hell. She died too soon. I didn't get to see her grow up. I could have done something to save her. I was a bad mother. God is unjust. But her death is reality. That's that thing where my child died, period. Anything after that is the story and where the argument happens and where the pain lingers. No argument in the world can make the slightest dent in what has already happened. Prayer can't change it. Begging and pleading can't change it. Punishing yourself can't change it. Your will has no power at all. You do have the power. Here's where your power is. You do have the power to question your thought, to turn it around and find You do have the power to question your thought, turn it around, and find 3 genuine reasons why the death of your child is equal to her not dying, or even better in the long run, both for her and for you. This is hard. This takes a radically open mind. So, excuse me, when you When you watch Byron Katie work, sometimes if somebody's getting stuck in the how to turn these stories around, she'll ask them to give her 3 reasons why it's a good thing that something happened. 3 genuine reasons. An open mind is the only way to peace. As long as you think that you can know what should and shouldn't happen, you're trying to manipulate God. This is a recipe for unhappiness. So that goes back to the thing of, if I have a child that dies, I cannot know if that was a good or a bad thing for everybody in the big scheme, in the big picture, because I only have access to my little section of this lifetime and this existence and this reality. I only have this one little window that I can look through. So it's kind of like looking through a window with blinds, like Venetian blinds or mini blinds. If you're trying to see outside, you can only see, if you're really close, through that one little gap. But the reality is there's like 100 different gaps that you could look through, and each one will give you a different viewpoint. Or you can raise the shade and you have the whole window view. We don't have that whole window view. We don't even have the 50 little slices of a view. We only have our one little tiny window of a view. Thanks. So we can't know. And to think that we should know makes us insane. And to think that we can know makes us crazy. And arguing in our head drives us mad. So that's what she's saying, is even something that on the surface that looks so incredibly tragic as a child's death and feels, can't even imagine, we don't know that it's bad. We don't know that it wasn't good. We don't know. And that's the part where we struggle. There's a possible future of seeing the whole view. Possibly. I like that. I feel like I see closer to the whole view when I can get my stories out of the way. At least I can suspend judgment and be willing to see whatever aspect of the bigger picture that I can see. I don't know. But that's where we go nuts, is thinking that we should know it, all of it, at one time. Reality, the way that it is, exactly as it is in every moment, is always kind. It's our story about reality that blurs our vision, obscures what's true, and leads us to believe that there is injustice in the world. When we aren't attached to a story, we experience uncomplicated grief. When something horrible happens, we have Martha Stewart calls it clean pain and dirty pain. Clean pain, uncomplicated pain, is that pain that hits you when something first happens. It happens, it's awful, you experience pain and grief. Yeah, Martha Beck, thank you. That pain flows on through in waves, in and out, in and out. Complicated grief comes from the stories we wrap around it. So our grieving process takes longer when we're warring inside our heads. So if we say it shouldn't happen, it shouldn't have happened, they shouldn't have done that, he shouldn't have done that, he should have taken better care of himself, which is what we say about my dad, he should have done a better job or whatever. That part makes it last longer because we can't change it. So it just tangles us up in this endless loop of wishing things were different than they are. Let's see. I sometimes say a new story about death. Are you a medium? I feel like my stories about death are changing a lot. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, us saying that makes us think we can change it. I think we're often functioning in a distorted mindset that makes us think we can change stuff that we can't change. Because feeling powerless is very uncomfortable for us. Feeling at the mercy of the universe, we're not at the mercy of the universe, but we can feel out of control. And it's our grasping for control that leads to some pretty intense storytelling and pretending that we can change what we can't change. It's our story about reality that blurs our vision, obscures what's true, and leads us to believe there is injustice in the world. I sometimes say that you move totally away from reality when you believe that there is a legitimate reason to suffer. There is no legitimate reason to suffer. Pain is pain. Suffering is something entirely different. Suffering is the thing we do to ourselves. When you believe that any suffering is legitimate, you become the champion of suffering, the perpetuator of it in yourself. It's insane to believe that suffering is caused by anything, outside the mind. A clear mind does not suffer. It's not possible. A mind without stories may feel pain, but it doesn't suffer. The suffering is the pain added to the pain. The suffering is all story. Even if you're in great physical pain, even if your beloved child dies, even if you and your family are herded off to Auschwitz, you can't suffer unless you believe an untrue thought. I'm a lover of reality. I love what is, whatever it looks like, and however it comes to me, my arms are open. Now, this is not to say that people shouldn't suffer. They should suffer because they do. So if you're suffering or you're encountering someone who's suffering and you try to argue against that, you're adding more suffering, you see? So you try to talk somebody out of their suffering before they're ready to undo the story, you just tangle it up even more. Yeah, and pretty much a waste of time and energy. Yeah, a lover of what is. Her first book is called Loving What Is, right? Yeah, her first book was called Loving What Is. Let's see. If you're feeling sad or afraid or anxious or depressed, that's what you should be feeling, because that's what you are feeling. To think otherwise is to, again, argue with reality. But when you're feeling sad, for example, just notice that your sadness is the effect of believing a prior thought. So we have the thought and the suffering follows so close behind it, it's hard to tell the difference. It's hard to trace it backward and identify which thought just triggered a storyline that left you feeling sad. When you're working with people in addiction, cravings, the thought comes first, then the craving follows right on the heels of it. So the thought or the perception or the image, it is hard to tell. It's lightning fast until you work with it, and then you can catch your thoughts fast enough. You can catch the thought that triggers a craving even as the thought is happening. It takes practice, though. What usually happens is you get stuck in craving and you have to backtrack and go, okay, what was I just thinking about? Yeah, awareness is key. Being aware of your own mind, again, with daily practice, meditation, or whatever, you have to be able to view yourself objectively and ask, what was I just thinking that triggered this thought, that triggered this story, then now I'm depressed. When you're feeling sad, human condition, absolutely. Just notice that your sadness is the effect of believing a prior thought. Locate the thought, put it on paper, and question it for the love of truth, and then turn it around. It was you who made yourself sad, no one else, and it's only you who can free yourself, and that's very good news. This is very good news. It's frustrating that we do it to ourselves, but it's freeing that we have all the power to undo it too. We did it, we can undo it. So there's a great deal of power and freedom in that. And making an honest choice. And sometimes you're aware that you're doing something and you choose to continue doing it, even though it may not be the best thing you could do. And at least be honest with yourself about it. At least be open and aware of how you're acting and what you're doing. A long time ago, when I was still trying to quit smoking, Deepak Chopra put out a stop smoking thing, and he had you, and of course I didn't do it at the time, so I can't tell you if it worked or not. Yeah, this is where, support and coaching can help train you in training your own mind and staying on track. And not slipping into story, because we slip into story and we fall asleep and we go blind. So he had you observe yourself, not even try to quit smoking. Just observe yourself and be hyper aware of yourself as you moved through the rising and falling of nicotine levels and the impulse and the action and the craving, and had you really observe yourself so that you could learn to identify that it's a stressful thought that leads to a story, that leads to a cigarette or some other numbing activity, and then you've got calm for a while until it starts to creep up again and you have that addiction cycle going on. And that happens whether you can identify an addiction or not. It's a thinking in that way is addictive. It's a pattern. It's a habit. It's something we can fix. It's something that we can work with. But it all starts in mindfulness, in mindful awareness of what the different voices in your head sound like, which ones are which, how to feel the difference when you're connected to source and when you're not, which we talked about yesterday, that now for those of us connecting to love on a daily basis for an extended period of time now we know damn good and well when we're not connected. We still might stumble around and not know what to do about it and not remember our tools. Hi, Cynthia. But we know when we're disconnected. So we've done enough mindful training that we have a greater awareness than we did 6 months ago. Hi, how are you? The story is the key, right? It's the story in this chapter, in this translation. The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. She does it. So her mind isn't magically cured or magically trained. She keeps her mind always at one. That is what gives her her radiance. The master. You're a master of your mind through this process. It's not that I don't. She even says, Byron Katie even says, your mind always is the storyteller. It spins tales all the time. It's always describing reality and categorizing it and putting it into boxes. Daily practice, yeah. And that doesn't stop, but you hear it and it's amusing. All your mind is doing that little thing it does. I'm going to master. I'm a master. Yeah, our ego likes those words. The computer in our heads, always ticking away, always ticking away. But you hear it. You learn to hear it. You learn to recognize it. You don't fight against it. You just let it do its thing. And when you slip off track and you get caught up in the story, you stop and you write it down and you question it, or you get support, or someone points it out to you. Hey, you might be lost in a story. That's what happened. And I was like, oh, I am. Yeah, get this right and win. See, immediate competitiveness. I'm going to master my mind and win the big prize. I'm going to win a major award. And I am going to win a major award. It's called Freedom in My Head. It's called being free from suffering. And the Buddha said that, what, 2,500 years ago or so? I'll take it. I'll take that too. There's pain and there's suffering. The two are different. It's a great prize. Oh, yeah. It's the best prize ever. If you are totally aware of your storytelling and never got caught up in it, I can't even imagine what that's like at this point. I can imagine being aware of it more because that's happening. So I can imagine it being more so. But I can't imagine a time yet that I will be totally free of getting swept up in the storyline. I believe it's possible. I certainly do, or I wouldn't be. Damn gnats. We're like invaded by small flying insects. The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao, and that is what gives her her radiance. And the Tao is ungraspable, so how can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. She doesn't cling to her story. The story happens, she's aware of it, she lets it go, questions it if it need be, picks it apart and says, oh yeah, that's a story. And I was thinking that story, and then I got sad, and then I slipped off track, and yeah, I like this. The Tao is dark and unfathomable, so how can that make her radiant? Because she lets it. Because she allows it. She allows it to be as it is. She doesn't waste her time and energy fighting against something that can't be changed anyway. It's futile. Resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. Reality is before time, before space. It is in existence. It will always be in existence. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. This is a great chapter. Great reminder to take mastery of our own internal processes, which is all we can do. Yeah, I like this. I love this book. On the back it says it paints a vivid and powerful portrait of the awakened mind. I think it was in 1980. Oh gosh, more than so either Christmas 1989 or Christmas 1990. When every year I started asking my internal Santa to wake me up. That's what I ask for that every year. Wake me up, wake me up. It's taken a really long time. But I definitely feel like I'm more often awake than asleep. I feel like that balance is shifting. It's only taken, 20 years? 30? Is it 30 years? 25 years? Oh well. I'm not dead yet, so there's still hope. Wake me up, wake me up. Keep me awake. Help me stay awake. Help me see reality for what it is. No comparing. Good point. Trending upward. Yep. Spiraling upward. Trending upward. Don't count the years. Yeah. And then you can go, oh, God. There's a story, right? Jesus Christ. It's taking me 25 years. Could be worse. I might not ever have woken up at all. That would be horrible. Any questions? Do you guys have any questions about this stuff? Picking apart your stories is a long, worthwhile process. Learning to hear them is a long, worthwhile process because the payoff is ginormous. Yeah, better late than never for sure. The freedom and the relief that comes when your story finally falls away is outstanding. So who wouldn't want to live in that space of freedom? Freedom is one of my very strongest values. Freedom for me and for anybody else, but the freedom inside my head is my biggest goal. Because that's where I'm a prisoner or not. That's where the jail cell door is open or closed on any given day, based on if I've opened or closed the door. And who's holding the key that day? Which voice is holding the key to the jail cell? Been working on a huge one for 50. Yes, finally at that place. Yay! I saw most of your chicken soup, Scope. You can almost smell that soup. Smell the cooking process. Cooking is a meditative act. Except for Linda, who hates it. I bet. Well, tomorrow, not for you. That's your outlet. Yeah. But cleaning is a meditation. Yeah, I was just about to say that. Cleaning is your meditation. I loved cooking. Don't like cleaning. I'll do it, but I don't like it. I wish that gardening was I do gardening because I want the results, but I don't enjoy the process like some people do. But I do enjoy the process of cooking. I guess that's it. That's all I got. I will be with the twins tomorrow. Back here Friday, twins Saturday, back here Sunday, twins Monday and Tuesday, then back Wednesday. So it's going to get pretty chaotic. You're welcome. You're welcome. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I was thinking that I would take a few days off, and then I was like, what are you, nuts? You'll go nuts without your daily scope. Thanks. Thank you. Monday and Tuesday may be tricky. We'll see. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for the hearts and the shares. Thanks for walking this road with me. It's always easier when you have good company. Have a great day. See you in the morning sometime. You're welcome.